Okay, hello, get your pen and paper ready, pause the tape, have a go at these questions, and in 5 seconds, the answers will appear. Okay, so mark your answers, see how you did, and if you're struggling, get yourself onto Brainscape, or think what your questions are and get in touch with your teacher. So what are we going to look at today? Well, we're looking really at, again, cardiovascular disease. And we've learned, haven't we, previously about that process of atherosclerosis. And we learned that the atheroma that develops over a period of time, one of the things that makes up that atheroma is a substance called cholesterol. So we learned, didn't we, that cholesterol, fats, fibrous material, calcium, these things go together to make up the atheroma over a period of time. So we're going to spend a little bit of time looking at what cholesterol is. So pause the tape and just have a look at the key learning points that we want you to take from this lesson. So you sometimes hear of people talking about good and bad cholesterol. It's not entirely true. Well, it's not true, really. Cholesterol is good in the right levels. You need cholesterol in the right levels. It's essential. So your cells need cholesterol in order to make up the plasma membrane. Cells need cholesterol in order to produce sex hormones, such as testosterone, estrogen, progesterone. Remember those happy days? Remember happy memories of talking about the menstrual cycle and reproduction? So your body needs cholesterol. It's essential. But the key is it needs it in the right levels, because if you have too much of it, then it can lead to cardiovascular disease. So cholesterol can be made by all cells, but the majority of the cholesterol in your body is produced in the liver. It's produced from saturated fats that your body gets from your food. So the type of foods that contain saturated fats are basically all the good stuff, all the stuff that you love eating, all the stuff that you've been eating during lockdown to make yourself feel better. But the trouble is that if you increase the amount of saturated fat that you eat, then you increase how much cholesterol you have in your body, and you also increase the chances of developing cardiovascular disease. And we're just going to have a look at how that happens and why that happens. So the key to this is how cholesterol is transported around the body. So we said at the start that cholesterol is a type of lipid, and lipids are transported around the body in the blood, in the plasma of the blood, by molecules called lipoproteins. And there are two main types of lipoproteins that you need to know about. There are HDLs, high density lipoproteins, and there are LDLs, low density lipoproteins. So the HDLs are the good, in inverted commas, lipoproteins. Because what they do is they transport any excess cholesterol, any cholesterol that's floating around in your bloodstream that you don't need. Well, they transport that to the liver so that the body can get rid of it, can eliminate it from the body. The LDLs are sometimes described as the bad ones, but it's not true. You need a high percentage of LDLs actually in your body, because that's how cholesterol gets to your cells. Remember we said your cells need cholesterol to make plasma membranes, to make sex hormones. So it needs to be delivered to the cells so that they can use this cholesterol. How does it get to your cells? Well, the LDLs will deliver the cholesterol to the cells. So it's not as simple as saying there's a good and a bad, a goodie and a baddie in this. So just to review, LDLs, low density lipoproteins, well, they take cholesterol to the cells, deliver it to the cells, HDLs, high density lipoproteins, any excess cholesterol in the bloodstream, well, they'll be picked up by the HDLs, taken to the liver, and then the liver will get rid of it. Pause the video, have a look at this, and just see if you can work out what's going on here. So this is how the cholesterol gets into a cell. So this big yellow blob is a cell. And what's happening is the LDL, the low density lipoprotein carrying the cholesterol, is arriving at the cell. And as it arrives at the cell, this green thing here is a receptor, an LDL receptor. And what happens is the low density lipoprotein binds with the receptor. And when it binds to the receptor, that triggers the cell to engulf the cholesterol, the LDL, the receptor, all of it is engulfed and taken into the cell. And once inside the cell, the LDL comes out of the receptor and the cholesterol is released from the LDL. And so the cholesterol can be used by the cell. And once that happens, the receptor can be reused. It goes back up to the surface, to the membrane of the cell, and is used again for more low density lipoproteins as they come along. So pause the video, maybe rewind this section just to understand how does the cholesterol get into the cell. Okay, so there's a written explanation of what's happening. Again, maybe just pause the video, have a read through it to make sure that you understand what's going on. Now, when a cell gets enough cholesterol, so once these low density lipoproteins are delivering the cholesterol to the cells, and once the cells have got enough, there's a negative feedback system in place. And basically what happens is once the cell has got enough cholesterol, it doesn't need any more. Well, what happens is these receptors that would normally be resynthesized and go back up to the surface and sit on the surface, well, they are no longer synthesized. So the end result is that that particular cell, once it has got enough cholesterol inside it, all the receptors on the surface of the cell eventually will disappear. What does that mean? Well, it means that you can't get any more cholesterol into the cell. Remember, the low density lipoprotein needs to bind to the receptor to get into the cell. So instead, what happens is that LDL, instead of going into the cell, will now just need to carry on traveling, circulating around the body in the bloodstream. Now that creates an issue, because this excess cholesterol, if it's not taken in by the cells to be used, well, it eventually gets deposited. Yeah, you recognize this? It's basically atherosclerosis. There's a buildup of an atheroma within one of the blood vessels, within the artery. And again, that leads to lots of different types of cardiovascular disease. So make sure you can see the link between high levels of cholesterol and cardiovascular disease, in particular atherosclerosis. So remember, HDLs, high density lipoproteins, these are the ones that if there is an excess of cholesterol in the blood, these are the classed as the goodies, because they can take that excess cholesterol and deliver it to the liver so that the body can get rid of the excess cholesterol and stop it accumulating, building up in the bloodstream, and prevent cardiovascular disease. So the right balance is essential of HDLs and LDLs. You need LDLs. In fact, the majority of the lipoproteins in your body, 70%, are LDLs. Remember, you need them because your cells need cholesterol. So it needs to be delivered to your cells. The trouble comes if you have too much cholesterol in your body. Your cells don't need any more cholesterol, and you have an excess of cholesterol floating around in your bloodstream. That's where the HDLs come in useful, and where it's useful to have more HDLs in the ratio, because these HDLs would transport that excess cholesterol out of the bloodstream to take it to the liver so that the liver can get rid of it. So the ratio of HDL to LDL is important. And if you have high cholesterol within your blood, then you want to reduce the chances of cardiovascular disease, to reduce the chances of atherosclerosis, then you want to increase the ratio of high density lipoproteins. You want to increase the number of lipoproteins that are taking the cholesterol out of your blood and eventually out of your body. How can you do that? How can you change the ratio? Well, you can exercise. If you exercise, you can increase the number of HDLs within your body. You need to eat the right types of food. So again, remember we said that the cholesterol is produced within the liver from saturated fat. So watching what you eat and the types of food that you eat can reduce your chances of developing cardiovascular disease. And also, this isn't an instead of exercising and a diet. You can't just go to the doctor and say, I don't fancy doing any exercise or eating the right foods. Can you give me a pill? But statins can help to lower cholesterol in your blood, because they basically inhibit the development of cholesterol. So there's an enzyme needed in order to produce cholesterol in the liver. And what the statin does is it acts as an inhibitor to that particular enzyme and stops that enzyme or reduces the activity of that enzyme. And so you have less cholesterol being made in your liver. Okay, so have a look at the key learning points and think carefully what your questions are, and make sure you ask your teacher.